Hello, friends. Welcome to our latest video, number 6 in our Creepiest Cases series. Now, we cover a lot of bizarre and strange cases on the channel, but for this series, we handpick 5 cases per episode that we believe to have the highest creep factor. See if you agree. Join us. Number 5, Brad Allen. 38-year-old Bradley Wayne Allen, known as Brad, had always maintained a close-knit relationship with his family. Brad and other family members shared the same 20-acre plot of land just off Ashley Road 80 in Fountain Hill, Arkansas. This arrangement worked perfectly with each person having their own home and space, but they were still within reach of one another. The family would often gather at each other's houses and on the shared land, and by all accounts, the Allens were just another hard-working family doing their own thing and doing their best to get by. The family felt safe on their own land, after all. The helping hand of a relative was just a few steps away at any time. But this feeling of safety and security would be shattered in the early morning hours of July 18, 2017. Angie Allen Clavitt opened the door to find Megan Cody, Brad's girlfriend, and Jennifer Davis, Angie and Brad's cousin, at her doorstep, distressed. Megan explained that in the middle of the night, the two had gotten into an argument, which led to Brad walking off into the woods in order to cool down. Angie, Jennifer, and Megan then set about devising a plan to find Brad and bring him home safely. Megan would later give investigators a full account of what happened in the early hours of July 18, 2017. According to her, she and Brad got into an argument around 3 a.m. Brad left the home and headed for the woods. Brad was apparently going to take a walk to calm down, and Megan expected that he would be back within a few hours. However, as the sun rose, she found Brad's side of the bed still empty. Megan tended to their 2-year-old son, hoping that Brad would walk through the front door at any moment. But the familiar sound of Brad's feet would never be heard again. At this point, Megan went to the other family members on the plot of land, and they quickly formed a search party for Brad. Brad had left with nothing other than the clothes on his back and was carrying only his phone. His family continued their search for Brad, but ultimately found nothing. By July 21, 2017, 3 days after he was last seen, Brad had been officially reported missing to the Ashley County Sheriff's Department. When later asked why it had taken them 3 days to report Brad missing, Jennifer, his cousin, told Dateline, "We searched for the next 3 days because you can't file a missing person report for 72 hours. We looked everywhere we could think for him." With the report of Brad's disappearance now in, the Ashley County Sheriff's Office officially opened their investigation and began the search for him. His friends and family watched on as sheriff's deputies combed the property, looking for any sign of the young man. The whole 20 acres were searched thoroughly, and cadavers and search dogs were brought onto the property to further assist. Tommy Sturgeon, the Ashley County Sheriff, later told Dateline, "We've had the track dogs twice and the cadaver dogs twice. They haven't revealed much of anything." Track dogs tracked him down the road for several miles and then lost his scent. The searches for Brad continued, but with each passing hour, it became clear that this was much more than a straightforward case. Brad's phone records were searched and showed no activity after he left his home at around 3 a.m. on July 18th. Investigators also quickly ruled out a voluntary disappearance, as Brad had left behind his wallet and debit cards. Some sources state that his wages were deposited into his account and have remained untouched, while others claim that he failed to collect his paycheck from his place of work. Either way, Brad left his wages and his bank cards behind, pushing the likelihood of a voluntary disappearance to the back of the line. To investigators and Brad's loved ones, it appears as though he vanished into thin air. And while the trail is short and clues are few and far between, they still haven't given up hope. Brad's disappearance has greatly affected those around him, and Megan, his girlfriend and mother of his child, is doing everything she can to explain it to their young son that his daddy can't be here right now. Brad also has 2 older children who live close by, and one of his daughters took to Facebook in January of 2022 to ask for help. In the Facebook group titled "Come Home, Boy," Bradley Wayne Allen, his daughter Kaylee wrote, "Hello everyone, I'm Brad's oldest daughter. I need some help with figuring out how to contact Adventures with Purpose or who to contact to speak with them. I'm needing them or someone like them to search a specific area for me that only divers can search. Our local police are no help. They only have excuses at this point, so please help me. There have been a few apparent sightings of Brad over the years as far away as Louisiana. However, investigators have never been able to substantiate these sightings. Unfortunately, in 2019, Jennifer, Brad's cousin, passed away. Brad's daughter, Kaylee, posted a beautiful tribute to Jennifer on her Facebook page, thanking her for never giving up on finding her dad. Little progress has been made in Brad's case, much to the understandable frustration of his family. At this point in time, we do not know whether Adventures with Purpose or similar groups are involved in the search for Brad, and we ask that you recommend his case to them and help his family get the word out. Brad Wayne Allen was last seen on July 18, 2017, walking into the woods on his property following an argument with his girlfriend at around 3 a.m. Brad is described as a white male with brown hair, green eyes, stands 5 foot 8 inches tall, and weighs 165 pounds. Brad has the following tattoos: praying hands on his right upper back area, a spider web on his left elbow, a tribal tattoo on his right bicep, and what has been described as an unidentified tattoo on his right upper arm. Brad was last seen wearing a light-colored shirt, black shorts with a red stripe, black Under Armour brand tennis shoes, and a black baseball cap. Anyone with any information, no matter how insignificant it may seem to you, is asked to please contact Detective Tad Huntsman of the Ashley County Sheriff's Department on 870-853-2040 and reference case number 170-722-1238. Number 4, Brooke Allensworth. 37-year-old Brooke Larson Allensworth was dedicated to her 3 children and was always striving to do what was best for them. Brooke worked as a nurse in Searcy, Arkansas, and was known to be dependable and always in contact with her family. Unfortunately, not much else is known about Brooke's life, and the only details that remain are surrounding her disappearance. On July 12, 2018, Brooke was seen driving her 2007 black Toyota Camry from Newport to Searcy, both in the state of Arkansas. Now, according to the Charlie Project, somewhere along her journey, Brooke is believed to have gotten a flat tire and hopped out of her car and tried to fix it, and that this repair did not last long. This is the last known movement of Brooke, and after that, it appears as though she simply vanished into thin air. When Brooke failed to return to Searcy, her family knew that something was very wrong. Her father later told KARK, "I know that in my heart she would not hurt herself, and she has never gone this long without contact." According to our sources, her father reported her missing to the Searcy police on July 26, 2018, and an investigation was officially opened. Investigators were able to determine that on July 11, 2018, Brooke had visited a hair and nail salon. They also told the media that they had interviewed several Brooke's friends and acquaintances to try and establish a timeline. However, no one was able to offer up any useful information. The day went on, and the Searcy Police Department continued to dig into Brooke's life, looking for any sign of her. As day broke on July 27, 2018, the Searcy Police Department would receive a chilling call from the Independence County Sheriff's Department. On July 27th, the Independence County Sheriff's Department responded to a call of an abandoned vehicle underneath a bridge at Highway 122, White River Access Road, in Oil Trough, Arkansas. After running the plates, the Independence County Sheriff's Department found that it belonged to missing woman Brooke Allensworth, and then they called the Searcy Police Department, and that is where the car was registered. Officers quickly arrived at the scene to find Brooke's car, motionless and almost untouched. There was no sign of a struggle, and her phone and cigarettes were still inside the car. Sheriff Stevens of Independence County Sheriff's Department told NBC it was like it was just parked there and walked away from. The keys were not in the car, and we have no information on who put it there. He also added, "We impounded the car and put a search warrant on it to get information out of it. We searched the area. We spent a day and a half in the river looking for Brooke. We didn't find anything." The residents of both Oil Trough and Searcy watched on as the investigation continued, wondering who in the community would have wanted to harm Brooke. Days slowly turned into weeks, and even with the passage of time and the investigation, no sign of Brooke was ever uncovered. The discovery of her abandoned car had bewildered investigators, but there was no trace of her anywhere. Since 2018, Brooke's case has turned cold, but her family and investigators haven't given up hope. Brooke Allensworth was last seen on July 12, 2018, and her car was later found abandoned on July 27, 2018, in Oil Trough, Arkansas. The police have not ruled out the possibility of foul play, but as there are so few leads to work with, her case is currently at a dead end. Brooke is described as a white female with brown hair, blue eyes, standing 5 foot 8 inches tall and weighing approximately 170 pounds. She has a tattoo of coordinates on her right side, and these coordinates lead to a location near Newport, Arkansas. Brooke also has her ears pierced, smoked cigarettes, and dyed her hair blonde shortly before going missing. She was last seen wearing dark blue denim shorts and 2 left shoes. One shoe was a flip-flop, and the other was a wedge sandal. Anyone with information is urged to contact Detective Mike Price of the Independence County Sheriff's Office at 870-793-8838 and reference case number 18-01015. Number 3, Deborah Dean Poe. 26-year-old Deborah Dean Poe was a bright young woman with great plans for the future. Deborah wanted to open her own catering business and had taken up 2 full-time jobs to help fund her ambitions. This was no doubt tiring work, but Deborah took it all in stride and was proud that she was working so hard to make her dreams a reality. Those dreams would be taken away from her, and now 30 years on, we're left wondering, where is Deborah Dean Poe? Deborah was a tenacious spirit and certainly a force to be reckoned with. While she worked at a Circle K shop on Aloma Avenue and Hall Road in Orlando, Florida during the night, she also had a day job. When not serving customers from behind the counter at 3 a.m., Deborah worked at the Orlando Sentinel. As previously mentioned, Deborah worked these 2 full-time jobs in order to save up some money, but her boyfriend and friends pleaded with her to quit her job at the Circle K. At the time, Deborah worked her shifts alone, and everyone was concerned for her safety and welfare as a lone woman overnight in a convenience store gas station. Deborah brushed aside these worries, and instead friends would frequently pop into the store during her shift to make sure that she was okay. On one occasion, shortly before her disappearance, a naked man entered the store during the early morning hours and jumped over the counter, trying to get to Deborah. Thankfully, she was able to escape his grasp, and after running around, Deborah lured him outside, then ran back inside the store and locked the doors. This event unsettled Deborah, but it did little to deter her in her quest for money. She was used to drunk or strange customers coming into the store and quickly brushed it off as just another night at work. Sadly, this bizarre event would be a small insight into what was to come for Deborah. February 4th, 1990 started normally. Deborah went to her day job before returning home and getting ready to serve customers and tend the counter at the Circle K. Neither Deborah nor her boyfriend Scott knew that within a matter of hours their lives would be completely turned upside down, and that the two would be plunged into a decades-long mystery. Scott performed his usual routine of popping in the shop to check on Deborah, and according to reports, he last checked in with her at around 1 a.m. that morning. Scott had also checked in 2 hours earlier at 11 p.m., and it seemed that all was well. At the time, the two were living separately, with Deborah living with a female roommate, and also hoping to purchase her own property in the near future. At around 3 a.m., one of Deborah's friends was passing through the area and drove past the Circle K where she worked. The friend told investigators that they saw Deborah behind the counter and that nothing seemed untoward. Just an hour later, though, the situation would be very different. Reports indicate that a customer entered the shop sometime between 3:15 and 3:30 a.m. and noticed that there was only one other person in there with her. The witness described the other person as being male, between 19 and 25 years old, with long black hair and wearing a Megadeth t-shirt, a wire earring with a cross, and a skull ring. The Charlie Project also noted he apparently drove a van with a Megadeth mural airbrushed on the side of it. Now, this is where things take a strange turn. The man wearing the Megadeth t-shirt wasn't another customer. At least, that's what the witness thought. This bizarre man was standing behind the counter, as if he worked there. The witness asked for some cigarettes, to which the man replied, "You shouldn't smoke, you know," before taking her money, putting it into the till and grabbing her change. What was also strange was the fact that he appeared to have no knowledge of the store. The customer, in fact, had to point out where the cigarettes were and which ones she wanted. What became of this bizarre man is unknown, and where Deborah was at the time also remains unknown. 30 years on, and the police are still wishing to speak with the strange metalhead behind the counter that night that Deborah disappeared. 30 minutes later, a regular customer entered the Circle K, hoping to see Deborah's smiling face, but instead they were greeted with an empty counter. Thankfully, this customer caught on right away and knew that something wasn't right. Deborah was a very reliable employee, and her absence made this person feel extremely uneasy. Running to the nearest payphone, the customer dialed 911 and asked for the Orange County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff's deputies responded to the incident, and within a matter of hours, dozens of squad cars and specialist units had descended upon the Circle K. During their initial search, investigators failed to find Deborah, but did note that nothing was missing and the cash register was still locked. Behind the counter, they found a cup of coffee, some chocolate milk, and some houseplants. They also found Deborah's uniform smock neatly folded and placed on the counter. This discovery did little to put investigators at ease, and they desperately continued the hunt for the 26-year-old. Deborah worked at the Circle K from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. The counter had been abandoned around 4 a.m., and investigators found it very unlikely that Deborah had gone home early. Sensing how serious the situation was, sniffer dogs were brought in, and the dogs managed to track Deborah's scent from the back of the Circle K over a fence and onto a road. After this, the scent trail went cold, and investigators believed that Deborah was likely abducted and forced into a car. But it wasn't her car that the abductor had used. Instead, her new red Toyota sat in the convenience store's parking lot. Investigators conducted a search of the car and found that nothing was out of place. Her handbag was still in the back seat, along with her keys and her most recent paycheck. One thing was for sure. Deborah Dean Poe had not left of her own volition, and now the clock was ticking to find her. With no signs of a struggle and no scent from the dogs, investigators quickly found themselves at a dead end. At one point during the investigation, Scott Iaggi was being looked into as a person of interest. At the time of Deborah's disappearance, Scott had worked as a pastor at the local Chapel Hill Baptist Church, which is located directly across the road from the Circle K where Deborah disappeared. Police have stated that Scott Iaggi is not a suspect, although that hasn't stopped the rumor mill from swirling, especially online. There have been very few breakthroughs in Deborah's case. Investigators have never been able to track down this elusive Megadeth man, nor the man who ran through the Circle K naked. Investigators strongly believe that foul play is involved and that she was kidnapped, but no sign of Deborah or her remains has ever been found. In 2002, authorities did state that they had a suspect in Deborah's case. However, he has never been publicly identified. In the years following her disappearance, cadaver dogs did hit on the scent of human remains on the grounds of the Chapel Hill Baptist Church across the street, according to an article titled "Search Fails to Find Remains" by Dolores Bloodsworth for the Orlando Sentinel. Tom McCann, an Orange County Sheriff detective, said the once heavily wooded lot was about 5 miles from the store and was near the home of a suspect in the case. Detectives had searched the area previously, but wanted to try a crack team of cadaver dogs that recently found the body of a missing East Orange County man. Sharon Scavazzo of Pinellas County, founder of the K9 unit, said 5 of the group's 6 dogs signaled they found human remains Wednesday morning in a section of the grassy field. By nightfall, however, deputies using a backhoe failed to find Poe's body. Deborah's older brother and father, Alvin, have since passed away, and now Deborah's mother is the one left to fight and advocate for her daughter. Deborah Dean Poe is described as a white female with blonde streaked hair, blue eyes. She stands 5 foot 2 inches tall and weighs about 100 pounds. Deborah was known to wear minimal makeup, her ears were triple pierced, and she had a burn scar on her left shoulder. Anyone with any information is asked to please contact Corporal John Nutting of the Orange County Sheriff's Office at 407-254-7200 and reference case number 900-30211. Number 2, Diane Janice Dy. 13-year-old Diane Janice Dy of San Jose, California, was going through a rebellious streak in the summer of 1979. Her parents had recently gotten divorced, and she was living with her mother and brother in San Jose. The divorce had troubled Diane, as it troubles many young children. Diane took the divorce hard and hoped and prayed that her parents would see the light and get back together again. While navigating through adolescence and her parents' divorce, Diane began to hang around with the wrong crowd. The group of friends led to Diane smoking both tobacco and other substances, and also skipping school regularly. Of course, her parents were worried about her behavior and noted that this sudden change had happened right around the time of the divorce. Her mother, Patricia, began to put a tighter hold on her daughter, telling her that she wasn't allowed to see these friends who were clearly a bad influence on her. According to sources, Diane was also friends with an older boy named Doug Arnold Young, and as we know, an older boy hanging around with a 13-year-old girl is never a good sign. Not only was Doug several years older, but he was also on probation and known to engage in criminal activity. Not a whole lot of information is available about Doug, but we do know that he committed thefts and other crimes, later graduating to murder in 1983. Those closest to Diane did their best to ensure that the two didn't hang out together, but Diane was a headstrong 13-year-old, and it appears that the friendship between the two persisted. Aside from the troubles of her parents' divorce and her rebellious streak, Diane was described as a happy and excited girl who loved sports. She was always playful, joyful, just filled with life. She made me happy whenever I was around her. This account was given to NBC by Diane's friend at the time, Nadja, who was practically living at their house in 1979 due to his own issues at home. Nadja and Diane were close, so when Nadja heard Diane crying on the doorstep outside, he rushed out to console her. He told NBC News, "I was the only one home, and then I heard her crying outside. When I went to console her, she told me she had plans to run away. I spent over an hour trying to talk her out of it, and I thought I had convinced her. After their heart-to-heart, Diane asked to be left alone, and this was the last time that Nadja saw the girl he described as his sister." A few days would pass before the alarm was raised. Nadja looked for Diane, calling the home when he was at home or elsewhere, but was met with no reply. After going to the Dys' home, Patricia and Nadja both realized that they hadn't seen Diane since July 30th, 1979. In this moment of stark realization, Diane was reported missing, and the search for the 13-year-old commenced. Since Diane disappeared, there have been 3 sightings of her. The first was in the days after she disappeared, in which a neighbor of the Dys remembered seeing a blonde girl in the area. The second possible sighting was at a Jack in the Box restaurant, also in 1979. The details of this sighting are incredibly sparse, and it has never been substantiated. The final possible sighting of Diane was made in 1981 at the Serramonte Mall in Daly City, California. This sighting was made by a classmate of Diane's who said he spoke to her and talked about her disappearance. Diane made it clear that she did not want to go home, nor had any intentions of going home, and the conversation ended there. Aside from these possible sightings, there have been no leads, and Diane's case sits cold. It was theorized that Diane may have been Princess Doe, who was discovered in 1982 in Blairstown, New Jersey. However, Diane was later ruled out as a possible match. This lead gave brief hope and then crushed Diane's friends and family. For them, the worst part is not knowing what happened to her. Her parents, Bill and Patricia, have since passed away, and her brother, Dean Dy, and her best friend, Nadja, continue to advocate for Diane and seek justice for her. Diane Janice Dy was last seen in San Jose, California at her home on July 30th, 1979. She is described as a white female with brown hair, hazel eyes, stands 5'2" and weighs 110 pounds. Diane's ears are pierced, and she has a previous fracture to her left forearm and has a 2-inch scar on her chin. She was last seen wearing light blue corduroy pants and a blue shirt. Anyone with any information is asked to please contact Maureen Burden, the San Jose Police Department, at 408-277-8900 and reference case 792-129576. Number 1, Lisa Farmer. In May 1983, Lisa A. Watkins and William Franklin Farmer tied the knot, and Lisa officially became Mrs. Farmer. The two had a young son together, and their marriage was the cherry on top for their family and their relationship. There's not a whole lot of information about who Lisa was as a person, and the only information that exists is surrounding her disappearance. It is important to remember Lisa, not only for what happened to her, but also for who she was as a person. In the days before her disappearance, Lisa, her husband, and their 14-year-old son had moved into a new home in Lawton, Oklahoma. In fact, the couple had been settled there for just 3 days when William was called away on a military training exercise, leaving Lisa and their 14-month-old son in the house alone for what would be the first and, sadly, last time. The last reported sighting of Lisa was at 8:30 p.m. on August 2nd, 1983. After that, she has never been seen or heard from again. According to neighbors, everything seemed normal on the night of August 2nd, and it wasn't until they awoke the next day on August 3rd that they realized something was off. The faint, continuous cries of the farmer's 14-month-old son could be heard emanating throughout the house. As the hours passed and the crying continued, the neighbors decided to pay a visit next door and investigate. As they approached the house, they noticed that the back door was unlocked and a window in the dining room had been left open. Inside, unbelievably, they found the 14-month-old child alone, hungry, crying, and wearing a very soiled diaper. The neighbors reported that aside from being hungry and in soiled clothing, the baby was otherwise in good health. That left the question, though, where was Lisa? The neighbors looked all around the house for Lisa, but found no sign of her. However, signs of a struggle were apparent throughout the house, but nothing aside from Lisa and the flower print nightie she had been wearing was missing. All of her important personal items had been left behind, as had her 14-month-old child, which immediately raised suspicions. The neighbors contacted the Lawton Police Department and William Farmer, and an investigation was opened. Despite scouring Lawton and its surrounding areas, no sign of Lisa Farmer has ever been found. There's only ever been one person of interest in Lisa's case, and that is a man named Kenneth Wagstaff. Again, there's not a whole lot of information about Kenneth, and all we do know is that he was tried and acquitted for strangling a woman around that same time. Kenneth was named a suspect in Lisa's disappearance, but the Lawton Police Department nor any other law enforcement agency have commented as to why they believe this. Lisa's case really is a mystery and a case of a person simply vanishing into thin air. Lisa Farmer was last seen on August 2nd, 1983, in her home in Lawton, Oklahoma. She is described as a biracial female, a white and Native American mix, with brown hair, hazel eyes, standing 5 foot 6 inches tall and 115 pounds. Lisa has scars on her hip, right ankle, tongue, and under the toes of her left foot. She was last seen wearing a gold chain, floating heart necklace, a gold wedding band with a diamond solitaire, and possibly a flower print nightie. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Lawton Police Department at 580-581-3270 and reference case number 1983-5917. Well, folks, there you have it. What do you think of these strange cases? Very creepy indeed. I look forward to your comments, but please keep it friendly and respectful. In the meanwhile, be good to yourselves and each other. Stay safe out there. It can get weird sometimes. As for me, I'll see you a little farther on down the trail. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll talk to you next time.